Welcome back to Life in 10. This is episode 150, and we are back on video. And as I mentioned in the previous episode, we have been looking at my new book and first book called The Man in the Arena, Life is Worth Staying in the Fight. And I'm going through chapter by chapter on each episode to discuss what the chapter is really going through and just kind of the major points. I encourage you to get a hold of it. Again, you can find it on Amazon. There's a paperback copy, hardback, and then there's also a Kindle if people are still using those. I have no idea. Maybe you are. The book takes a look at Theodore Roosevelt's speech that he gave in 1910 in France and really just breaks down the entire speech and shows how applicable it is to our everyday lives. So I encourage you to take a look at it, and it should just be an encouragement for you on how to keep battling through life's major challenges. The second chapter, which we're talking about today, is Not the Man Who Points Out How the Strong Man Stumbles. And let me ask you a question to kind of get this started. Why do we thrive on watching other people stumble? It's the strangest thing. If it wasn't so prevalent, then I'm not sure I would have wrote a chapter about it, or that Roosevelt even would have spoke about it. But even then, he saw how seems like we like to watch people fall. And we will like to watch people have breakdowns and things like that. I mean, every time you turn on the news, it's another celebrity who has done something, said something, gone somewhere that they weren't supposed to, and they're ridiculed and criticized for it, and it just becomes highlighted news so that everybody knows about it. And we've launched into this what we would call cancel culture. That's a pretty prevalent term that we're using now at this point, and we live in it. It's now to the point where you can't even make an opinion or say a joke without risking your career, your livelihood. I mean, there's multiple things that could happen to you if somebody just happens to disagree with what you're saying. And, from a distance, I don't know the parameters. I don't know who gets to categorize this. I don't know who gets to say this is good or bad. But, at some point, that individual gets ostracized from the society that we're living in. Now, let me say this. I'm not saying that everything or everyone does and says or anything like that is correct. So certainly not agreeing with that. Now, I do agree with their freedom to be able to say that, but there are circumstances, including in our own personal lives, where we do need to look at the things that we're saying or what we're doing and give it a good, analyze it. Should we be doing that? Should we be saying that? But I do find it odd how we almost celebrate the failures of other people. It's almost like we want it to happen. We long for it to happen, to have a story or something to talk about. It's so much so that even others begin to think negatively about someone when, that they never would have even thought twice about it. But since you were speaking about it, or since you made a big deal about it, or something that you heard, suddenly it becomes a bit of a problem. But it's very clear that those kind of people who like to watch the strong men stumble do not count. In other words, they ultimately don't matter in the long run. They're like an extra in a movie. They're not the star of the show, no matter how much they actually want to be. But for whatever reason, how their megaphones blast noise so much louder than the rest of us. Here's what I want to encourage you with. You don't want to be that kind of person. Don't align yourself and don't let yourself fall captive to the enjoyment of other people's failures. As intriguing as it may be, because sometimes it's maybe an interesting story, our goal every day we awake should be to build up others around us. Be the encourager in someone's life. And honestly, if someone does fall, we should be the first people in their lives to come around and help them up. We should be reaching out our hands, pulling them back up on their feet, wiping the dust off their back and saying, all right, man, let's get back in this thing. Let's get back at it. Because here's the thing. When the critic is constantly badgering someone who fails, and then the critic fails, does he not wish that in that moment he was shown the same grace and mercy that the other person was asking for? that he didn't show them? Nobody wants to be in that position. We've all been in that position. But when the tables are turned, we hope others practice empathy. And there's a good chance that if you've shown it in the past, you'll reap it in return. Now let me close with this. In Matthew chapter 7, Jesus says this: don't pick on people, jump on their failures, criticize their faults, unless, of course, you want the same treatment. The critical spirit has a way of boomeranging. It's easy to see a smudge on your neighbor's face and be oblivious to the ugly sneer on your own. Do you have the nerve to say, "Let me wash your face for you," when your face is distorted by contempt? It's this whole traveling roadshow mentality all over again, playing a holier-than-thou part instead of just living your part. Wipe the ugly sneer off your face, and you might be fit to offer a washcloth to your neighbor. Those are strong words, but we all need to hear it. Think about that this week, and let's learn to lift up instead of tear down. Never forget that you are loved and you are highly valued. I'll see you next time where we talk about chapter 3.